NBC Sports, former Flyers goalie. He'll be a part of that alumni game tomorrow there, PT.
He sure will. He's going to have to try to stop Brian Trottier, shut him down, and some of the Pittsburgh greats that he's got to go up against.
He'll join us now, Brian Boucher, here on the Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN. Welcome back, Brian. How are you, pal?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, guys. How you doing?
Doing good, and I know Pete's going to be at the game tomorrow. He's looking forward to seeing the alumni and, always a fun weekend that you will be a part of. And Coachy was on with us the other day, and he said the hardest part about the alumni games is finding a goalie that can get back up. So he was concerned if you guys could get back up in the nets tomorrow night.
I sure hope that I can at least get back up. If that's what my goals are, then I should be in good shape for tomorrow. I don't know if I'll stop many pucks, but I certainly can probably guarantee that I'll be able to get back up.
I saw you guys had a little practice the other day, Boucher, and I noticed that you went half the rink, not full rink. And afterwards, somebody asked you for your prediction, and first you threw out like a 9-8 or something. He said, well, I hope that 8 goals don't go by me. So it should be an interesting game. Can you put into words, though, the excitement that you have for just the cast of characters, the different lines, the different generations that are going to be your teammates tomorrow night?
Yeah, it's going to be, it's going to be a lot of fun. You got the LCB line. Obviously I was a little bit before my time, but for a lot of Flyer fans, I think it strikes up, real good memories. And, more my generation was the Legion of Doom line with Renberg, Leclerc, and Lindros. So looking forward to seeing that again. And I know as a fan, even when the Flyers had the alumni game versus the Rangers there before the Winter Classic, I believe it was in 2012, I was at the Hurricanes back then, and I actually watched more of the alumni game than I did the actual Winter Classic game. Just because, it brings you back to your childhood. It brings you back to, when everything was pure and you just really enjoyed watching the game. You see your heroes playing. So hopefully that can be the case for a lot of the fans on Saturday. I think we got a pretty good lineup. We've had, pretty good participation from our alumni, and hopefully it'll be a fun event. Sounds like the fans are going to pack the building, so it should be a lot of fun.
Brian Boucher is our guest right now. He's going to be the goaltender tomorrow night, one of the goaltenders along with Neil Little, for the Flyers alumni as they play the Penguins alumni in the alumni game at the Wells Fargo Center. Boucher, so in that practice the other day, some of those guys that were there, I think, was Tim Kerr a part of that, the practice the other day?
He was. Yeah, he was. Hadn't skated, I think, in 28 years. Hadn't played hockey in 28 years from what I heard. It was interesting. He says he went for a public skate, I think, the week prior. First time he'd been on skates in a long, long time. And towards the end of the practice there, we were playing a little 3-on-3 inside the blue line. I think he scored 4 or 5 goals. So obviously he's still got some touch around the net. I don't think he wants to go anywhere outside of 5 feet from around the net, but you put him in that area, he's still deadly.
Oh, that was his office. That's where Flyer fans remember that he was able to score 50-plus goals 3 or 4 seasons in a row. Murray Craven's going to be a part of the game, too. I know that one of the inspirational stories, though, and you could probably touch on this, is the fact that Brian Propp is going to play in the game, given what he's overcome.
Yeah, just a great story of, resiliency and intestinal fortitude. Proppy obviously having that stroke, really unfortunate what happened to him. And he's really been working hard at his rehab and trying to get back to normalcy. His speech is getting better and better every time I see him. But when you see him on the ice, and he skated, I played an alumni game last March. I think we were down at the University of Delaware. We played a game. And he played in that hockey game, and you could tell how badly he wants to be out there. And he's got so much passion for the game, and for him to see him getting better every time I see him is really encouraging. I'm really happy he's gonna be able to be a part of it. I know he's fired up. Like I say, he's got so much passion for the game. He wouldn't miss it for anything. So I'm really happy to see him getting better every day, and hopefully he can make a 100% full recovery.
We're talking with Brian Boucher, former Flyers goaltender and NBC Sportsnet analyst for the NHL. And Boucher, those are some of the guys that are going to be on the ice. I know, and before I leave the guys on the ice too, you talked about like that game in Delaware. I think I've seen comments from Bobby Clark, Bill Barber, Bob Kelly, all saying like, we're doing this because this is going to be our last go round. Like, Clarkie's, I think 67, although he'll probably get mad at me for saying his age. Barber's like 64. The Hound isn't getting any younger. So they feel, do you think that's the case, that there's enough alumni now and Marshy's doing a nice job of getting everybody back, and there's sort of the next, you, Danny Briere, are you guys generation next?
I think for those guys, I think they've done their part as far as the alumni is concerned with regards to playing in alumni games, and the fact that they're participating in this game, says a lot, from their standpoint, and it's greatly appreciated. I think the guys that live in the area, we should be playing in these alumni games as much as we can. Obviously, our schedules are different, and we've got children and we've got other commitments, and some of us, we do work. Some guys were fortunate that don't work. Maybe they've got more free time on their hands. So I want to play as long as my schedule permits. I'm glad that the schedule worked out for me work-wise, that I could play on Saturday night. I was in some ways you dread it, and some days you look forward to it. It's a chance for you to be an NHL player for one more day and play in front of fans, and it's going to be a packed house. It should be a lot of fun. But for those older alumni, I think they've done their part. I think it's time for other guys now to step up and play in these games. But those alumni will always be around. They'll always be at events. They're always willing to give back. They've been fantastic here in the Delaware Valley, and I don't think any of that will change. I just think it'll be a case of maybe they're not going to be putting their skates on for much longer.
We're talking with Brian Boucher, NBC Sportsnet NHL, and you said some of us are working. You're one of them. One of your jobs is to evaluate, give opinions, and watch hockey games. And you see the Flyers last night, 5-4. But it seems that it never fails. Bouch, you've been part of these conversations yourself as a player. The goaltender conversation always comes up. Hackstall said Mason's the guy. He doesn't have to look over his shoulder. He promptly pulls him from the game. And then Neuvirth comes in, stops all 14 shots. So, who plays tomorrow? Sounds like a Flyers team, doesn't it?
It does. You play Neuvirth. Look, I don't know what to say about this situation. For Steve Mason, you want to be a number one guy, right? You get an opportunity to play. Then, the conversation of fatigue is coming in because you're playing too much. Now, the other guy comes back, and we don't want to be looking over our shoulder. You can't have it both ways. And this is why it's so difficult to be a number one goaltender in the National Hockey League. You have to be physically up for the challenge. Mentally, you have to be up for the challenge. And to earn the right to be the number one guy and not have to look over your shoulder. And I think we talked about this the last time I was on the air. You have to earn that right. And I think right now, maybe there is fatigue in Steve for all the games that he's played. Now that Neuvirth's back, look, from a team standpoint, having two goaltenders being able to play and win your hockey games is good for the hockey team. Now, if you're looking for, personally, if you want to be the number one guy or what have you, to the coaching staff, I don't think it's important. I think what matters to Dave Hackstall and the Philadelphia Flyers is that they have capable goaltenders that can win them games. Whether it's Michael Neuvirth or Steve Mason, that's up for the coach to decide who he starts. But I like the fact that they are a 1A, 1B. I don't need to subscribe that they have to be the number one guy or the number two guy. Because I don't feel like either one of them is cut out for that. Michael Neuvirth has a history with injuries, and for Steve Mason, to a degree, he does as well. And I think they both are better suited for the 1A, 1B. Now, maybe for Mason, it's a bit of a challenge for him right now because, when you have a bad game or you can, the other guy's right there, that's where you have to be, able to give yourself a peak performance, even though you got somebody sitting on the bench that can step in and play. So it's a delicate situation, and I know it's frustrating because as a goaltender, I've been there. I wanted to be the number one guy, and for whatever reason, I couldn't put it together either. And I know it's I know it's probably frustrating for Steve Mason, but in this case with Michael Neuvirth there, I think having both of these guys there is better for the Philadelphia Flyers.
Bouch, were you the kind of guy that would stand up and say, "I'm struggling right now"? I mean, do you have a problem with him saying that or is that just honesty out of Steve Mason last night after the game?
I don't have a problem with that. To me, look, I mean, if he's going to be honest about it, he's giving an honest assessment of his play. I agree with him. I think he is struggling. It's been some time since he's won now. And now, okay, so the question is, how do we get out of that struggling phase? And that's where, you got to, whoever you deal with as far as mental coaches or your goalie coach, you got to find ways. Is it something technically that you're doing wrong? If it is, look at the video and correct it. If it's something that's in between the ears, you got to clear your head and find a way to get yourself feeling good about yourself again. Because let's face it, Steve Mason's a talented goaltender. He's a good goalie, and he's better than what he's played here as of late. He's got to find a way to get back to the way he was playing when he was the main guy carrying the ball when Neuvirth was out. It's as simple as that. And it comes and goes, but when it goes, you can't have it go for long stretches of time, because that's when it hurts the hockey club, and it'll eventually hurt your career as well. I mean, eventually you only get so many kicks at the can to be a number one guy. Eventually they're going to turn to somebody that can do the job. I mean, I speak from experience because I know that was the case for me. I had a couple of chances. It didn't work out. I was hard on myself. The more you press, it just doesn't work. And that's why there's 30 teams, there's 30 starting goaltenders in the National Hockey League. And if you break it down to those 30 guys, you're looking at maybe 10 guys that are elite.
Yeah.
Right? And it's very difficult to be in that, top third of the National Hockey League starting goaltenders where you can count on Carey Price, Henrik Lundqvist, guys like that. They're not easy to find. They're hard to develop, and they're hard to keep on top of that.
Brian Boucher's with us. By the way, Mason, 2.87 goals against, .901 save percentage. That's not very good. Those numbers, obviously, he's struggling a little bit with the numbers-wise. Would you have liked, when they had the chance, Brian, to see Stolarz get more time? Like when he was up here, it seemed like they were very hesitant to use him. Would you have liked to see him get more time, kind of knowing what you know about Mason, saying, I know what I have in Mason. Maybe this kid gives me something we don't have?
No. I think for the Philadelphia Flyers and Dave Haxtell, their job is to win hockey games. This is not a time to, hold auditions for what a guy can do for you down the road. I think they had a pretty good feel that, for Stolarz, being on the NHL roster, being around the guys on a daily basis for a couple of months, it was going to serve him well in his development. I don't think you want to overwhelm him by playing him too much. For Mason, he was starving for playing time, and he was playing well. It wasn't like he was playing poorly. If he was playing poorly, that's a different conversation, but he was playing well, and as a hockey club, your job is to stockpile wins. And a division like the Metro Division is a very hard division, probably the best in the National Hockey League. When you can go get wins, you go get wins. And when they put together that winning streak, Steve Mason was a big part of that winning streak. So you know that Neuvirth's coming back at some point. So you say, hey, Steve, if we got to play at 25 straight, you'll get your rest when Neuvirth comes back, but we need you right now. And Stolarz would get those spot starts. Now, the one start maybe in New Jersey, I know that some people thought that should have been a start left for Stolarz, but forgive me if I'm wrong. I think there was a break right after that, so they wanted to give one more push to give Mason before I think they had 3-4 days off. So I think the coaching staff handled that situation just fine. I think Stolarz will get his chance. And in reality, for Stolarz, from a development standpoint, not play for 2 months is hard for him. He would have been better served being down in Lehigh Valley playing for 2 months. Me as a goaltender looking back, you want to play. And even though it's great to be in the National Hockey League, he's actually going to have a little bit of catching up to do when he gets down to Lehigh Valley with playing time and get his game back, because being a practice goalie and being a starting goaltender are two different things.
Ryan Boucher, he'll be a part of the Alumni game tomorrow night, Wells Fargo Center, 7 o'clock against the Penguin Alumni. Neil Little will be down the other end of the ice.
Well, no, and then there's two other Penguins. No, Neil Little and Boucher in the one net, Sebastian Aubin and Jocelyn Tebow in the other one. Sorry, I should have communicated that to you better there, Gilly.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, no, I know Neil Little, obviously, with the Flyers, those two guys. You can't play the whole game, Booch, right? You can't play a 60-minute game any longer. Come on, we knew that.
Well, exactly. Well, I'm not begging to be the starting goaltender in this case. I want to play it fair. I want to make sure that Litz gets his time in there, has a chance to shine. We're joking around saying that we're going to play 5-minute shifts, he and I. But hopefully we can get through this hockey game tomorrow. Just working on my stretching, making sure that I don't go out there and pull a hamstring.
Well, be healthy. You know? It should be a fun night tomorrow night up in Philly, and we appreciate your time as always, pal.
All right, guys. Great talking to you. Have a great day.